Today we are going to learn about a beautiful heavenly object called... Watch the video to find out. So without any further ado, let's get started. We meet again. Welcome my dear students. Today I have a mystifying journey in store for you as we together get to know about one of the most scintillating heavenly bodies present in our universe, Nebula. Give me a high if I MCU fans. Well, let me begin by quoting this chap you might have heard of, Victor Hugo. He said, "Our Milky Way is the dwelling, the nebulae are the city." Sounds deep, right? Don't worry, I didn't really get it either. I just wanted to sound thoughtful. But what I do understand is what a marvelous phenomenon these beautiful clouds of dust and gases are in space. You see, some of these nebulae are made up of a supernova, which we got to know during one of the previous videos is literally a stellar explosion, whereas others take part in this poetic process of giving birth to new stars and are called star nurseries. Sounds pretty, doesn't it? Boy, can you even imagine somewhere out there in the space a star would be in the process of formation as we speak? One can find these beauties in what we call the interstellar space, which is the space found between the stars. In fact, the closest nebula from the Earth, called the Helix Nebula, is 700 light years away. So, even at the speed of light, we will take 700 years to reach the nebula. Let me further break it down for you. Our moon is about 1.3 light seconds away from the Earth, whereas the sun is at a distance of 8.3 light minutes from the Earth. So, you can just imagine how far the Helix Nebula from our Earth would be if it's located at a distance of 700 light years from Earth. I mean, that's almost equal to the distance people usually put between me and themselves. The woes I can tell you about, but this is neither the place nor the time to talk about them, so moving on, let's take the example of what you might have heard of, the Orion Nebula, which, if you don't know my students, is an emission nebula more commonly known to us as the Orion constellation. So this enormous cloud of gas and dust is many light years away from the Earth. Yet it's so bright that it is visible even to the naked eye. Far more brighter than what my future turned out to be. Well, moving on, the Orion Nebula is a star nursery, which means that other stars are formed in it. What happens is that turbulence from deep within these clouds create high density regions called the knots, which contain sufficient mass that the gas and dust starts to collapse from the gravitational attraction. Pay attention, students, and as it collapses, pressure from gravity causes the material at the center to heat up, creating what we know as proto. Eventually, this core becomes hot enough to ignite fusion, and that, my friends, is how a star is born. Although Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga did seem to get the details right in a way, even thinking about this gives me goosebumps. Right. So let's have a quick recap of what we have covered thus far. We have learnt about what those beautiful nebulas are made of, how really far are they from us in reality, and most importantly, we got to know how a star is born. All this certainly does seem like enough for today, doesn't it? But let's go on a little longer, for learning shouldn't stop. So let me quickly tell you about how insanely huge these things are. So first up, let's talk about the size of these nebulae. I hope everyone is clear on what a light year is by now, but if you aren't, let me go over this once again. Oh, the pain I endure for you guys, you have no idea. Okay, back to light years. A light year is the distance which a ray of light would cover if it travels in vacuum for a year. Now, back to the size of these nebulae, I have just one sentence to say. They are ginormous. And you can trust me to be a fair judge of its enormity. I mean, look at me. Still, let me justify my statement. A normal nebula may stretch up to hundreds of light years. If that doesn't sound much to you, here's a simple calculation. Light covers a distance of about 9.5 trillion kilometers in a light year. Let us trivially assume that we have a nebula in form of a perfect circle, which usually never happens, unlike my body shape. So, the maximum distance between two extreme points of the nebula will be its diameter. If our assumed circular nebula stretches only 1 light year across, then the diameter of that nebula would be 9.5 trillion kilometers. Imagine how big a nebula can be that stretches hundreds of light years across. Even my waistline is not that much of a competition to that. That sums up pretty much everything I wanted to tell you guys about what's a nebula. Now you can show off your knowledge in front of your friends to look cool, or use it in a fairy online battle of wits. Take your pick. But till then, keep learning and my videos stay here, so feel free to revisit. May the force be with you.